Hello and welcome to Filling in the Gaps. I'm Justin,
And I'm Darren.
and today we're going to be discussing The Room 2. So if you've been a long-time listener, you've already heard us talk about the original Room, and it was kind of just a matter of time before we get to this one. This is a game that sells for about $5 on Steam, but often is one of those that goes for sale as low as, I think, about $1.25.
It's about that, 150, 125.
It has overwhelmingly positive reviews with over 6,700 reviews when I checked. It is made by Fireproof Games, and it's only from about 2016. This game was originally for mobile platforms. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was brought out on the Apple first, of course, because they get everything first. And then it came out on Android. I bought it. I own these games on mobile only. You kindly purchased The Room 2 for me as a gift, which I thank you for. Because it was actually quite interesting to see, for me to have both of them now, and I can compare them. But yeah, originally a mobile game ported to Steam, but they kind of upgraded all the graphics and they redid the entire game pretty much. They said that they didn't want to just do a lazy port, and that's good.
When was it out on mobile devices? Because Steam, it says 2016, but I have a feeling it was out before then on the other platforms.
Yeah, it was. It came out in 2014, so it came out 2 whole years before the Steam port.
All right, let's talk quickly about that because you've played it on both platforms. Which way do you think is better to play this game?
It's a rare occasion that I would say it's better to play a game on a mobile device, and this is definitely one of them. The Steam version cannot physically offer you the kind of 2-thumb motions that the mobile device does, like when you got to tap 2 points of the screen at the same time to control something. Especially in The Room 1, there was a puzzle where you had to tilt your device to move these orbs around, and I even asked you in the last episode, how did you do that? You said, I just click and drag them. It's like you just pull them into position. But on the mobile, you had to actually...
not really. It was more like I just moved the mouse around until the box unlocked,
right?
Basically. So I think it's kind of the same thing, except it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like I was actually playing that part.
Yeah, and so The Room 2, yeah, it's it doesn't have too many of those kind of gimmicky things. There's a couple. So it's a nice port, but I think it's more suited for a tablet or a phone.
The Room 2, much like The Room 1, is a series of puzzle boxes. However, in this one, you do get to explore a bit more of the area around the boxes, which, personally, that's what I wanted in the first one, but now I kind of regret it because I kind of feel that isn't as good.
I heard a lot of people say that as well. Like, they loved The Room 1, and then when The Room 2 came out, they were all... And I was too. When I played 1, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you could actually move around and walk around? And then you get that in The Room 2. And not really spoilers for The Room 3, but they develop even more on that. There's much more free roaming in The Room 3. And it's almost like, be careful what you wish for. Because there is something really cool about The Room 1 where it's just like sitting down with a single box in front of you. You can manipulate that box and move around, and you're fully focused on solving that puzzle. Whereas in The Room 2, now you've got, I can go to that table over there, or the table behind me, and your focus is now split into 3 sections.
And I don't feel like any of the sections are developed as well as the first one. So the first one, each box seemed to be a masterpiece. And then you get to this one, and I don't know, I just kind of feel like they've taken all these other aspects they could throw into it, and it doesn't really feel like the same unified whole as far as the puzzles. With that said, though, I mean, it is still very, very good. It is still better than so many other games of this kind that I've tried before. So I would still recommend it, but I would recommend it with the kind of caveat that it's not quite as good or feel quite as polished as the first room. And yeah, I mean that's probably it actually. So I would recommend it. As we get into the spoiler section, obviously we're going to be talking about the puzzles and everything, so we can't really talk about too much of that now. You would recommend it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's still a good game. It's an excellent game. It's just, yeah, it's not as, I don't know if it's saying not as good as the first one. It's different. It's like when a band, it's like when your favorite band releases a new album and they've changed their style a little bit. And you're like, it's not as good as the last one, but I still like it.
That pretty much does it, really, for the spoiler-free section. We both recommend it. We would definitely say play it. If you like the first one, you'll definitely want to play this one. And probably you want to lead into the third one, because I have a feeling we're going to be talking about that one in the future. But if you haven't played The Room 2, now's the time to leave, because we're going to be giving away puzzle solutions right from the start. So,
bye. Well, my voice broke there. Bye.
Welcome to the spoiler section. So, The Room 2 opens with a menu of a picture of a giant watch.
And a creepy soundtrack tinkling away. I do like in the menu how the clock is the same time as your time.
I didn't notice that.
I love that in games. They do that inside. When you get to the office, there's a clock on the wall. It's a little trick that gets me every time, and I enjoy it.
We begin with a tutorial. A note that says something about being blind, but the tool to see is here. Basically, we need to get the lens fixed because it broke at the end of the Room 1. We get the same kind of cryptic notes in this one that we did in the first game. Do we ever get the name for that? It's AS is the initials. But...
No, I think you get it in the third one.
Okay. The first note is, I am not the only ghost in this place. Which I guess is referencing to us as the player?
I think so. I think there are other people who have come through. Like, we are maybe number, nth in the series, but everyone else has failed.
Already in the tutorial, we have 2 tables, which is double the number we ever had in the first one. As you move to the other table, there's a note that says something along the lines of, Mr. Rigby, I don't approve of you, you're a grave robber. And essentially it says we need the artifact of enormous value and power. That's what we're going to be searching for.
The Null.
There is a very simple puzzle box with a slide. You basically just slide the pieces in place and the lens is fixed again because you get the new lens to put in it. I'm not sure how much I want to go into detail on every puzzle. I wrote them all down, but I think that's a little bit boring to go over and a little bit boring to probably listen to, I assume. What do you remember about the tutorial room? Do you remember?
Yeah, I like that. I like that you find that weird eyeball thing, and you have to like make it look north, south, east, west to do the code. And it teaches you everything. It teaches you, okay, use the lens, which gets used a lot more in this game than it did in the previous game.
Do you think so? Because I felt like I was using it a lot less.
Oh, I thought I was using it more, to be honest. I mean, maybe not so much for the puzzles themselves, but for actually, they've decorated the room more with secret stuff. Like when you get to the especially the lab at the end, where it's just like, there's just code written all over the walls and stuff. It's used a lot more, well, let's just say it's used a lot more kind of environmentally in this game. I like the tutorial room. It allows you to jump into the game not having played the first one, which I don't know if people would actually do that.
You could.
But you can if you want to.
You're not really missing a lot of story in the first one.
No, not at all. But then the second room is the one that I remember the most, and that was...
Well, see, the thing is, I've labeled it, so just to keep it straight, there's a tutorial room and then there's room 1. Because that's the way it's labeled in the game.
Ah, yeah, okay, yeah.
As we kind of finish that room, there's the angel statue, and it is holding the box, and that's where we have to, again, go back to the room tactics of lining up the symbol to see it. And every room that we solve, that's what we have to do, is we're going to have to... It's a different symbol, but it's going to, again, be the same symbol throughout the whole game. Which, For a long time, I was a bit confused as to what the symbol actually was. But I think later in the game, there's a point where you actually get to see it in a different format, and it made it seem a bit better in my head as to what it actually was. The first time, this one, I just kind of guessed. I was just moving it around. I knew what I had to do from the first one. I've got to line it up. But by the time it glowed, I didn't really see what the symbol was.
Right.
And then it kind of rushes you through a cutscene into, well, the end, because there's always a pause between each room. And then you get into room 1, and room 1 is the ship. So we're now not only kind of going from box to box, but we're actually being teleported apparently through space and time into different places. So now we're in a random ship with a model of the ship inside the ship, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense to me.
That's because you played it. The ship model is what we are trying to solve, but we have to use other things around the room in order to solve it. It starts to get a little bit, as far as story, a little bit weird and a little bit ridiculous for me at this point, because I don't understand why these puzzles are here. I felt like in the first one, the puzzles were there because this mysterious AS left it for us. But now we seem to be just jumping through space and time to find puzzles that I don't understand why they're there or why nobody else is around. I bring it up now because I think it's really important as we go through. I'm probably not going to remember to mention it later.
Yeah.
But we jump to a ship. We jump to what looks like a tomb in ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
It just seems all over the place. And to me, it's another part of the reason why I kind of like the first one better than this one, as I felt like the first one was one solid piece. And this one to me felt like 6 different people worked on 6 different things and then they put it together. I could be wrong. Maybe they have a through story that to them made sense, but to me, it felt kind of flimsy.
Cobbled together.
In the journal for this room, there's a lot of talk about privateers after an artifact of great power. And that seems to be exactly what we're after. We're following the artifact. I think the through story, as best as I can put it together, is that we are following it from where it was known to be. And so perhaps, I don't know, I just feel it's a bit odd that we're going onto a ship that has cannons on it, when clearly that would have been ahead of time from ancient Egypt.
Right.
So there's a part of me that thinks that maybe these rooms, it would make more sense if we were following it chronologically to where it would have been in order. But instead, like I said, it just feels like it was kind of thrown together.
It's like you're jumping backwards and forwards through time.
What do you think of the ship room as far as puzzles go?
I like the ship room a lot. It's one of my favorite rooms in the game, to be honest.
I love the ship model.
Yeah.
It felt very much like the first game. It felt like a puzzle box and needing to find the other elements. Because they're lit up as they become available in the model and because the game shows that to you, I did appreciate that. I did have a little problem with the first chest. I had a couple problems. So one is that there were things not actually in the chest. We had to get one puzzle piece from the support pillar behind it.
Yes, yeah.
We also had this ship moving puzzle in it, where we had to follow where the ship went, trying to get the artifact. I like that, except I did find it to be a bit difficult to understand what I was supposed to be doing. And there was one time where I would say a couple times in this one where at times I was able to click on things I was supposed to work with, and other times it seemed like I just couldn't click on them. So then I moved on trying to find something else. And I'm not sure if it was a bug that I had in my version, if I wasn't patient enough, but that did really irritate me.
Yeah, for the chest puzzle with the ship, you have to, before you can click on the map, you need to do something else first. And you can get the story and you can read the story and you know exactly, okay, 2 squares west, 1 square north. But you need to actually push a button or something like that before the map will do something. You need to solve a little extra puzzle first.
There's one where you have to move tiny pieces out of the way so that you can, I think, get another piece out. That's the one that really got me because I had clicked on that area, but it didn't zoom in, so I had assumed it wasn't anything. That's part of the problem of having a game be so big, is that it's hard to know what am I actually looking for. And even when I did find it, even when I did go into it, it was really kind of tricky to move with the mouse. I didn't like that.
I found that a lot, and I'm just going to say this now because I might forget it later. Definitely one of the major downfalls of this on a PC using a keyboard and mouse is the controls are not intuitive at all as they are on mobile. I found myself a lot of times exiting out of the inventory and then clicking on the eyepiece. So it's like, okay, it's not the end of the world, but it happened a lot of times I was doing that. Also, things like opening cabinets with the mouse and you're just like, it was just really awkward, you know, on the thing, you just like tap, and it's so smooth and perfect. Like all the movements are very fluid. This was really kind of janky, you know, it wasn't good. So I understand what you're talking about for sure.
I found that a number of times. I like the idea of this puzzle. One of the problems, though, is to get into the chest itself. Like the top layer of the chest, once you're inside, it's essentially just moving pieces around. That doesn't really feel like a puzzle to me. And it's more a hidden object than it is a puzzle, I guess. You're just trying to find where the puzzle is.
Yeah. Where's the lock, basically, yeah.
Where's the lock? I have the key.
Yeah.
And that isn't quite as interesting. And I felt there were a lot of those moments in this game as a whole. But particularly I felt in this level, there was a lot of just touch this and just touch that. I also found, because I was having trouble, that there were a number of times in this game in particular where their hint system wasn't very good. It seemed to be 3 clues. One was incredibly vague and unhelpful. One basically told you what you probably already knew. And the third one told you the answer.
Right.
So I very quickly had to stop using the hint system. Whereas I felt in the first game, the hint system was much better organized. Yeah, I mean, I was going to go more of that, but I think that's pretty much it. Like, it just felt much better organized in the first one. And so...
in the first one, it was almost like someone was watching you play. I felt that too. It was always like they saw where you were getting stuck and they're like, oh, you know, have you checked? You looked at this earlier, but you should try and look there again because you've missed something there.
We get to open another table, essentially, of puzzles. And this one is all around weights.
This puzzle was good, but hard for me. I remember, because I don't want to judge this on my playthrough on the PC. I want to try and remember back to when I first played this. This puzzle got me big time because if you miss something in this, which is very easy to miss, you'd be stuck for hours. I was stuck for hours on this one.
There's also the issue of the weights being different shapes. And one in particular really irritated me because you can't tell the size of the weight just by looking at it in your inventory. And there was one that I think was a hexagon, but that wasn't the right one for the hexagon shape. You had to adjust it. Later you get another one to make it a hexagon shape. That just feels completely unfair. Here's the one that you should have, but it's not the right one. And they played that card twice. And I felt that was a bit too much.
Yeah, because even with that one, you have to unscrew the top of one of them off and use that as a weight itself. It wasn't so much that. I found that fine because basically, you know, you're trained, like, as soon as you pick something up, you check it in the inventory. And then as soon as you can move something around, it doesn't get to be moved back. So once it's locked in place, you're like, okay, well, I don't know what I've done, but this is important.
I think we were trained that in the first game. I don't feel like we were trained as well for that in the second game.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, as a standalone game, I think that probably would be considered a weakness.
Yeah.
they should have given us more early on to explain that.
Right. And the problem for me in that one was not really the weights, it was the discs. Finding those discs was a pain, man. Like, especially the one that's inside the circular slot where you pull out where you're doing the rotation thing.
I used the hint for that one because I couldn't find out.
That was where I got stuck, and I was like, okay, it's not here. And because you can divide your attention between 3 areas in this room, like, okay, it must be on the ship. I've missed something on the ship. Go back to the ship. It's not the ship. Okay, it's something in the box. No, I've done the box. It's on the pillar. It's not on the pillar. Okay, back to the weights table. I searched for it a long, long, long time, and then it's behind a hidden panel inside that thing where I already picked something up from.
We are given another couple notes here. So one talks about the artifact not being completely lost because the ship that they're chasing got shipwrecked, I guess, on some rocks. We got another AS note which questions whether we are explorers or if we are prisoners, because the note makes it think that we don't know where we're going next.
And we don't.
Yeah. It's a bit like Quantum Leap. We're just jumping wherever the symbol takes us.
Yeah. I did like this room as well because I've been playing a lot of the Obra Dinn recently, and when I played this on PC, it's just like, I'm just seeing the Obra Dinn everywhere now. It's almost the same ship and everything. Just, of course, a boat is a boat, but yeah, it was really weird. I've been seeing that game in my sleep, man. I've been dreaming about it. I've been playing it so much.
I will say, I think this room is probably, in my opinion, the best looking room. I think the ship model, I love that is the puzzle box. I love that there's a lot working with that one. I think as a whole, this is the best thematic, probably best puzzles of the room. It's a bit sad that this is room 1 and we have to do the other 4. I like it, but I think at this point I was hoping that things would only get better. As I felt in the first game, they kind of just kept getting more and more interesting. Probably not the case here. So,
at least there's one more good room. My favorite room is later.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. So let's get into the next room. Room 2 of room 2. So, this is the Egypt room. This is probably one of my least favorite rooms. Let's talk about the room as a whole. So we've got a relief statue or relief sculpture on the wall with a giant hole in it and a crossbow. And I love the fact that I used a hint and it basically told me to shoot the crossbow bolt through the eye, which I already knew even just looking at the room. But of course the crossbow is not in one piece. You have to find the different pieces to put it together. There is a broken mirror that we have to use to teleport between 2 different puzzle boxes. And there is a section of wall that is windowed off, well, kind of windowed off, and you can see things just beyond it, but you can't really react to it. So things that I do like about this room. I like the fact that there were hidden sections to the wall that would kind of swing around or open. I did like that. The fact that you're setting it in Egypt is already kind of a win for me. I do like that. But as a whole, I felt like this room had some real problems. So what did you think about this room?
I really loved the little kind of, I don't know what to call it, the Aladdin Palace, the Arabian Nights place, the Prince of Persia Palace, where you could use your eyepiece and you could move through the inside of the dollhouse. Oh, they've done something new now. That's really cool. I like that. And to be honest, that was it for me. They never scaffold you to drag the mouse or to use your finger to wipe down the dust thing. So finding that dust puzzle took me a very, very long time.
That was another hint that I essentially I think the second one said, oh, that block on the floor looks awfully dusty or something.
Yeah.
I went, oh, okay.
Exactly. And it's the only time you use it in the game, and it's the only time you've used it in the series so far. I don't know. Maybe they were just trying something new. I was like, oh, let's do that. It'll work on mobile. That's exactly what it is. It'll work on mobile because you can use your finger to dust it off. Fair enough. I liked that. Like I said, I like that palace. I like going inside it. I like the idea of the mirror. Like you look into the mirror and then you see the reflection is different. I guess is that what they're going for, and then there's a different set of puzzles to be solved.
I do like it. However, this is my biggest complaint of this room, is the fact that it is a very awkward back and forth to go between the two different puzzle boxes. I like the idea of there being two puzzle boxes and you needing to go back and forth to get the answers, but having to go to the mirror and reset the code every time was incredibly irritating. If you're going to have this kind of mechanic, have it be automatic once I've solved the puzzle once. There's no need for me to have to solve it every time.
Exactly. What I really didn't understand is who set this up so that you have to attach a hammer to a piece of wood to break through the wall, and after it's solved, who reset that? Like, who reset that puzzle for us?
Clearly, AS is resetting every puzzle for us.
That was a really weird puzzle. I mean, I like putting the skull on the thing because I had no idea what went on there, and I liked having the skull on there, and then the skull gets busted open, but...
Well, that means I need to get a new skull every time.
Yeah. Yeah, this room was just bizarre, man. It didn't make a lot of sense.
Well, the whole thing doesn't make a lot of sense if we're to believe that we're following AS, and AS has already solved all these puzzles. Because really, we should just be able to walk through all of them. Who would be resetting it? If you start thinking about that, then the whole game falls apart. The whole story element of it falls apart. I think, for me, the crossbow was also an issue. Aiming the crossbow was incredibly awkward. And it seemed like it would be easy, but it wasn't. Everything felt backwards. And even with the controls being backwards, once it's set up in the sights, it shouldn't fall very far short every time.
Yeah.
Which happened twice because you have to use it for the eye in the wall, and you also have to use it for the sandbag. And both times, it just felt like the bolt was hitting areas it shouldn't be because it was nowhere in my sight. I'm just aiming at an empty hole in the wall to hit a sandbag. It's not like I'm doing surgery here.
Yeah.
But it was hitting, I don't know, the metal pole or something. It just constantly was not hitting what it was supposed to be hitting. And I found that incredibly frustrating. So I like the look of this room. I do like the puzzle boxes and having the two different puzzle boxes. But everything about this room just felt like it was one step too clunky to really be fun. I kind of commented that to you online, and you told me you've got to get into the next room because you don't want to leave this kind of bad taste in your mouth. So we did kind of jump to the next one. Just before we go from here, the note in this one basically says either you're as lost as I am or you have forsaken me, which I find a bit impatient, I guess I would say. The thing is, AS has said that we're a bit lost and we don't seem to be in control of where we're going. So why would you expect us to have any more control over this than what you have? If we could control where we were going, we'd obviously skip all these puzzles and go straight to wherever you are. But we can't. In this room, because it's ancient Egypt, instead of getting journals about pirates, we're given scrolls about prophecy. And again, talking about this amazing artifact of power, which, as you said, we will find out is the Null in the future, though I think that's not the best name for it, but maybe we'll get to that later. Was there anything else about this room that you wanted to talk about?
Nope, let's get out of it.
Okay, so that takes us to...
Well, it takes us to the kind of elephant in the room. Why?
I would love it if there was an elephant in the room.
Why the Cthulhu tentacle kind of monster thing between doors? Like, what's going on there? What did you think was happening? Like,
that's basically all I thought. I thought it just must be some sort of magical portal.
Right, okay. I think that's all I could come up with is like, yeah, you're like kind of appeasing. Like, if there's someone that's maybe resetting the rooms, I guess maybe it's this kind of interdimensional being. And so once you solve it, and he's like, yeah, you're smart. You can go on. And then, here, I'll open the door for you. This is so dumb.
I think when it comes to this game, the whole story starts to fall apart.
Wait till you see the end of 3.
But that's the thing. I think it's my belief that this game is not the kind of game that you play for story. And the more I played it, the more I felt that that must be the case. I wanted there to be more. I wanted there to be more that was logical, but it wasn't quite there. Let's talk about the Seance Room. So,
Yay!
I do really like this room. I do feel, again, there were a few problems with the room that kind of bothered me in a way that probably more than they should have.
Some serious control issues in this room as well.
I think that that's probably what I'm leaning towards most. But there's a letter in this one. Well, there are a couple letters we're going to find. Let me just talk about those. So
Okay.
there's a letter basically saying that Margaret is a huckster and she's going to be sued or something like that. There's another one where she is writing a letter to somebody else saying, I've got this great job. You definitely want to join in on it. And there's an AS letter saying, if I trapped you here, basically saying, if I trapped you here, I have redemption. I have the key to this place. So here we go.
Mm-mm.
This room, there is the seance table with some cards on it. There is a camera. There's a roll top desk. And there is a cabinet. Very quickly, you find the part of a photograph, but forever, you won't be able to get into the actual cabinet where you can see where it belongs. What do you like so much about this room? Because you said this is one of your favorites, right?
It's probably my favorite in the game, to be honest, yeah. I liked the... Well, what I didn't like was the darkness of this room on PC. I had to crank my brightness up to 10 on this, because there's a point on the desk where you're looking... The drawer puzzle where you got to pull the drawers out and you've got the symbols with the Roman numerals. I couldn't even see it. And so it's probably even playing right now on the video. There it is there. Boop. I had to increase the brightness because I just could not read that symbol. I like the vibe of this room just in general, man. I liked communicating with like the dead, and then the bell rings on that box and stuff. I really like the camera, although it is kind of dumb that you have to look through it to open the drawer for some reason, because you're looking at that drawer going, there's got to be a secret key compartment or a secret button. No, you just look through the lens.
That is one of my biggest complaints. Another problem is the fact that the desk, for some reason, when I played it, I was able to click inside of it, meaning I was able to get into one of the puzzles without actually opening the desk.
Really?
Yes. So I was incredibly confused.
Oh man, yeah.
Because I got a piece before I was supposed to get it. And then the hint system was useless because it jumped ahead to a part I didn't actually have yet.
Oh wow, yeah, that's interesting.
So that got very confusing. So I had no idea what I was doing for quite a while. I was stumbling around this room, very perplexed, because it was telling me to do something I couldn't do. I couldn't click in to see the other side of the puzzles. So for all I knew, this was the only puzzle in the desk. So I got very, very confused by that. And so this whole room, I think, got a bit of a bad taste at the beginning for me because of that, because that happened very early on. I hadn't even solved the camera yet, and I'd gotten this puzzle. I like looking at the picture and something appears. I think that that's pretty cool. I
like the typewriter.
I do like the typewriter. I love the way it looks. I like the way it kind of feels as you're using it.
It's like a Ouija board typewriter almost. It's pretty cool.
Though I will say the first puzzle, I didn't understand what it was trying to tell me. And I'm not sure if that was just me being tired or not thinking things through. It got to the point where I think I ended up looking up a walkthrough for that first puzzle. And then once I realized what was going on, the message is giving me the clue for the cards. Because there was something odd about the first one. Some of the words they used didn't match up the words on the card. There was something odd about it that didn't seem to quite click. And I went, what's the point of this? And I was being very obstinate and saying, how dare they? This puzzle is stupid. What, do I just have to put in the 3 cards at random? No. It's been given to me. It has been given to me. I just didn't see it. And so once I put that together, then it just became easy, really. But I like the typewriter. I like the connection to the cards once I figured it out. The drawer puzzle I thought was pretty good, but there was one of them I think that I had a lot of trouble finding.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I mean, I like this room. I think the ending of this room is brilliant. So again, I think that this thematically has a very good thing. It's talking to the dead, and then what do we get at the end but a corpse?
And that is AS, yeah?
As far as I can tell. I'm assuming so. And that's where we get the key and then we get into the watch.
Hmm.
And once we get into the watch, then we can move on. So I do like it. I do find at times it didn't feel intuitive. And maybe there was a bit too much going on. But this was a pretty good room. Next is the most pointless part of the entire game. I do not understand why they even bothered to have this. We appear on a boat, a small boat. We essentially have to look off to the side, get a crank handle.
And a little jump scare.
Is there a jump scare? What was it?
A little bit. The tentacle kind of rises out of the water.
I probably wasn't even paying attention. You basically put the handle into the slot and crank yourself to shore, and then you walk inside. Yay.
Room completed. Well done.
This is the level of room you would give me. Be like, here you go.
I loved your text to me. You're like, wow, that was really hard. What a hard room. But when I replied to you, I was like, yeah, this is them moving away from the room one and putting in more kind of cutscenes, I suppose, moving parts, adding to a little bit of depth to the story, and like really showcasing like, hey, the mobile platform isn't just garbage and in-app purchases and waiting for your crystals to replenish so you can play the game a little bit more. Here's a Myst-like kind of game that looks good and is great to control, and they're really showcasing what they can do with mobile with the mobile platform.
I think they could have done more than that, though.
I mean, should they have said, "Oh yeah, that's level 4, guys. Thanks." Like maybe some intern worked on that. He's like, "I made this boat. All right, we'll throw it in the game. We're just throwing anything in anyway." So I don't know. But yeah, it was fun.
I mean, it looks fine, but
it looks great.
There's just nothing to it. There's no real puzzle. There's no real playthrough. It may as well have just been a cutscene.
Yes, which essentially it is. I mean, but yeah, don't call it level 4. Like
exactly. This leads us into the lab. The lab is not my favorite room.
The lab really reminded me of. Okay, here's a question. I haven't asked you this yet. What game did the lab remind you of? Like a game that we've played.
Yeah, that's not a small list.
Together.
It's probably going to remind you of Last Will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reminded me a lot of Last Will, especially at the end with the heart beating and stuff. This game really reminded me of Last Will a lot. Or rather, Last Will reminded me of this game. Yeah, the lab is... It's interesting. It's got a lot of stuff to do. There's so much moving around, though, in this place.
And one thing you sent me a message about is you were very irritated. There was a whole section we couldn't touch. Yeah.
I should actually go back to my mobile and see if that area is actually in the mobile game. I don't think it is. Because in this game...
It seems like every table you can touch, except the one off in the corner.
If there's something in this game, it's there for a reason. And it was just like dead area. It was just like something you couldn't touch. And I don't know why they put it in, because they've done so well just darkening parts of the room that you couldn't get into. Like, why not just have that part in shadow like you've done before? Why are you including this quite complex looking, well rendered art part for this room that you can't get to? I didn't understand that really. But I like the laser puzzles. I like the
Did you? I don't know. Something about this room just didn't really work for me.
I like the battery puzzle, like charging the batteries and stuff.
I liked it once. Didn't really like doing it twice. Especially when it breaks the second time. I just felt like this room, more than the others, was too spread out and not enough in any one area to really be interesting. There's a point where you get 2 symbols and you have to use that weird molten black disc.
Straight out of Riven. Everything's been used before.
That was a good look, but it wasn't really an interesting puzzle. And that was one of the worst mechanics in the game, because I found moving the dials, which should be the easiest thing in the world, was incredibly difficult. I couldn't get the dial to go all the way around the circle at times. And the puzzle itself, once you put the numbers all in order, I don't really need to check it out. This is not a really good kind of decoder ring style puzzle because the numbers are all in order. So what's the point? There seemed to be a lot more hidden object to this room than really puzzle.
Well, I mean, I guess the point is once you get the second part of the slider, then you get the key. That's the only thing that I can see. Like, the key pops out of it, doesn't it? I like the story of this room. I like the idea. Like, this is where the story is actually pretty cool. So it's obviously this guy trying to save his dying wife. And this does get built on throughout all of the games. Even part 1 touches on this. Part 2, obviously, here we are. Part 3 goes into more detail. Old Sins, which is the next game after. Even more story wise about that. But I like this. It's like, you've got the artifact. It's very powerful. You can bring back the dead, almost.
But there's sacrifice necessary.
Yes.
And AS has left us a note here. So again, it seems a bit weird if AS was in the other room and dead, but I guess time has no meaning. So the question is the soul the root of the null? And if so, do you have to give it one in order to get it to work? And so, yeah, I think that is an interesting concept that they're bringing up, but it's not quite enough for me. It seems like they're bringing in a lot of interesting ideas, but not really giving us any sort of completion or any sort of follow through. But this is me having only played the first 2 games. Maybe we get more of that in the 3rd game.
It should be self-contained. You shouldn't need to pick up the 3rd game to get a good story out of the 2nd.
I feel like we get puzzle boxes and mystery boxes. And unfortunately, most of the story is just mystery box and nothing is really explained. Like you said, why are there weird Cthulhu tentacle things in the in-between cutscenes in the rooms that take us from place to place? We don't know. The ending as well, I don't know. I guess I should save that for when we actually get to the ending, though. I don't understand this room, though, at times. Why finding those bugs and putting them in the right place seems to do anything at all. Are there magnets in the bugs that are somehow triggering something to open up? I do like the drawer puzzle, how you can open it, close it, and it becomes a different drawer. I like the idea of the battery, but doing it twice and having it break was really irritating to me. The laser thing, I like the look of it more than I actually like playing it. It didn't really... Again, here's the thing. It wasn't a challenge. The only challenge seemed to be around the mechanics and getting it to actually work the way it was supposed to. I think that is probably where this game, to me, wasn't quite as much fun as the first one. I felt like the first one was much more puzzle-oriented, and especially by this one, I feel it's much more just hidden object. I like hidden object games, but not as much as I like interesting puzzles. And I feel like we're gearing more towards hidden objects in this. What can you find? Then, here's a clever puzzle.
There are no puzzles in this level, pretty much. Like, there's nothing to solve. It's a treasure hunt. It's go to here, unlock that, get to the next point on the map. Okay, unlock that, get to the next point, and you're just chasing this laser around a room. You know where it's got to go. You're just like, okay, now how do I open up that? Yeah, there's really nothing to this room at all.
There was also a weird jar I had to open.
Yeah, I remember.
I think it is the fuse, actually.
Is it the fuse?
I think it is the fuse. It's something that should not be in that jar, but it is. When you finish your Beetle collection, you get a new lens, which I do appreciate. Okay, here we get a new lens. And then, like you said before, you look at the walls and there's just stuff all over the place. Now you have to find the few bits of information you need out of this crazy giant math problem, it looks like. So I do like that. And that kind of leads us to our end. It's again looking for that shape, though. Like throughout the whole thing, it's make that shape, make that shape, make that shape. Is it the shape of the null? Is that how it's represented?
I don't know, because I thought the null was the symbol from the first game. And it's not, like you said, it's not the same symbol.
That's where I get confused.
I think they're just runes, man. They're just like special sacred symbols of whatever weird god this thing belongs to. Like,
I will say this, though. there was the one point where you actually get to see it in a much more solid form or whatever, and it looked to me as though it was a cube with 2 doors,
Okay.
which I think is a pretty good symbol for what's going on in this game. You are entering a door in one area, but the door comes out a totally different part of the cube. If that's what they're going for, I think that at least that symbol is very good to represent what's going on. Whereas the first game, I don't know what that symbol was supposed to be. Again, maybe it just wasn't shown in a way that clicked in my brain as to what it was supposed to be. And maybe I'm adding a lot of meaning to this symbol, and maybe it's very random. I don't know.
Fireproof Games are writing down right now. Like, yeah, that's exactly what it means. We'll put that in the next game.
Go right ahead. We put together that lens, we create the shape, and then we're kicked out of the mansion.
Nice cutscene. Again, really cool. I wasn't expecting that. Like, you're back in the house, or you're in the mansion in real time, in real life, and yeah, you're being attacked by tentacles. Not in that way. Get your head out the gutter. Come on.
The house gets destroyed, though, right?
Yeah, it blows up. There's a big greenish glow to it. The roof blows off. That was really impressive when I played that on mobile. It's like, here's what we can do with the mobile platform, Cutscenes. Pretty cool. I liked it. I liked having a solid ending rather than the ending we got from the first one, which was essentially nothing.
It was essentially come back for the room 2.
Yeah.
I felt like the ending to the first one was actually getting that extra room. And we didn't really get that this time. And I didn't really get that feeling. So whereas the first time I felt like I got one more level than I thought I was going to get, this time I felt like I got
a cutscene.
Yeah.
There you go.
Actually 2 because of the boat level.
The boat level, yeah.
Not the big ship level, the crank myself to the lighthouse level. So here we are at the ending. What does it mean? So you mentioned Cthulhu kind of stuff before. Perhaps there's some sort of magic that is allowing us to transport. Maybe the creature is involved and the creature doesn't want us to be anymore, and that's why it destroys the house.
Yeah.
We're essentially following AS around, but we don't really know why. It's not to save him. If that's his corpse, it's not to save him. So...
Or maybe it was, but we find out he's dead or something like that. I've got no idea. The way that I saw it was like, this is definitely some kind of Cthulhu magical alien that can bend space and time. And this is maybe part of its essence or its heart or something like that, or some part of its body that we've found. It's been known throughout history. People have been looking for it. This is probably the only one that exists on Earth. That's why it's so special and sought after. And what that does is, well, it has many uses. That's why there's scientists studying it, using it to bring back, like, animate. There's the part where you see the hand moving. It's powering a severed arm and stuff like that. It's got weird magical powers. No one really knows what it does. I think that's the main point. We're messing with stuff we don't understand, but everybody wants it. One of the problems is maybe once you touch it or something like that, you get sucked into this weird dimension. But I don't understand why the tentacle monster kind of opens doors for you, lets you pass, and then at the end tries to kill you. like, here, solve this. Oh, you did that. Good. Here's the next one. Oh, you did that. Good. Here's the next one. Oh, you solved that one. Bad. Now you die.
So I don't understand the story of this. I feel like it's a bit higgledy-piggledy. It's just kind of all over the place. We don't seem to be going in order of time. We don't seem to have a clear purpose as a character for why we're doing what we're doing. I guess we do somewhat in the fact that we're already stuck in the room in this one, but you don't really know that. There's a part of me that feels like they needed to have a cutscene at the beginning as well to show us going into the room and being sucked into this kind of other world and being trapped.
I agree. That's definitely what's missing. Is they've got this ending, but they've got no beginning.
I suppose you get that if you played the first one, but even still, I feel like something is kind of missing here.
Because in the first one, it's just like, oh, your uncle sent you this weird box, and try and open it, and you just go through, you peel back the layers, and you get to the center of it, and it's amazing.
And curiosity just kind of brings you through.
Yeah, maybe just simple works, man,
Perhaps. I think in this case, I think that there is a point where simple might be better than not done well, right? Something that we've talked before about on I think the episode of Cube that we talked about, where there is simple versus just not good.
Simple versus hypercube.
I feel like there's something more that we should say, but I'm not really sure what to say. I feel like some of the puzzles were good. Some of the puzzles weren't. Hidden objects seem to take precedence in this game over interesting puzzle or even interesting puzzle box. I still liked it, but it wasn't the first one.
It wasn't the same. What I will say is, and this is no spoilers for the third one, but in the third one, they take it to the next level. And it's really a lot more free roaming, but I think they kind of like look at 1, look at 2, look at the mistakes they made with 2, and like, right, let's not do that again. But they're definitely gunning for this free roaming kind of Myst-like puzzle adventure. And they pull it off pretty well in the third one, I've got to be honest. I really like the third one.
I think as far as quality of game, they still do a very good job. There are a few areas, and I don't mean like whole rooms, but there are a few puzzles where the mechanics are really awful. There's something wrong, and I think that perhaps that came from porting it from mobile to PC. I will continue to play their games, I definitely will, but the story, they added more and it felt worse. They allowed me to roam a bit more and it felt a bit worse. I'm very curious to see what the Room 3 will look like.
Gaps filled and more gaps created.
So if you like this episode, if you like what we do, by all means, check out our other episodes or check out our other podcast, Buyer's Remorse, in which we subject each other to games that are in our library, but we haven't played yet. There are a lot of them.
A lot of gems.
And not so much. We also have our Steam group under the same name, Filling in the Gaps, where we do reviews, we put out announcements for upcoming episodes, and Darren is very good at giveaways.
I love doing giveaways. I'm the giveaway person, yeah. So if you want to solve some puzzles to win some games, join the group, give it a go. Some of them are hard, some of them are, well, not so hard.
And if you want to leave us some comments, say how great we're doing, hopefully, or some ideas on how to maybe improve things a bit, or games you'd like to have us play, movies you'd like us to watch, Filling in the Gaps podcast at gmail.com is still probably the best way to get a hold of us, though we do tend to check comments when we get them. We have so few that we treasure them.
Put them in little glass boxes.